All right, Talk Tickers listeners, ready to dig into BioNano Genomics? Their Q3 2024 earnings call just dropped, and we're breaking it all down. Got the transcript right here, some stock info. Let's see what's up for investors like you.
You know, what's interesting is that at first glance, it might not look so hot. Revenue's down 35% year over year.
Oh, okay, so not great.
Well, the thing is, BioNano is actually shrinking on purpose. They're aiming for profitability now, not just growth.
So less is more. What does that actually look like?
They've really cut back on employees, stopped making some products, and they're hyper-focused on these, 150 routine user customers.
Routine users, huh?
Yeah, so think about it. They're shifting from selling tons of systems to focusing on the customers who are using their optical genome mapping tech, day in and day out.
So who are these routine users, these VIPs?
Primarily cytogenetics labs.
Cyto what now?
Cytogenetics, they analyze chromosomes, for diagnosing stuff like cancer, genetic disorders. And these labs, they're doing a ton of tests, high volume. BioNano's betting these labs are their ticket to, long-term success.
Interesting. Quality over quantity. But if revenue's down, what's the good news for investors?
You've got to look deeper, past the headlines, buried in the report. There's a really good sign. Consumables, specifically flow cells, they're up 27% year over year.
Okay, so more labs are using the tech, even if fewer are buying it.
Exactly. BioNano's whole business model hinges on these routine users driving those consumable sales. So this growth, that's huge, suggests their strategy might actually be working.
And this is where it gets juicy, right?
Mhm.
There's this whole other thing that could, supercharge everything. A new CPT code for billing insurance for optical genome mapping, or OGM.
Yeah, this code goes live January 2025, and it could be a total game changer. It means labs can now get reimbursed for using OGM, making it way more attractive compared to those older, pricier methods.
Hold on, back up. For someone who doesn't speak healthcare billing, what does this CPT code even mean?
Basically, it's how medical procedures get billed to insurance. A new code for OGM, it means labs can actually get paid for using this technology, which could make its adoption, explode.
Okay, I'm with you. So it's like we're suddenly removing this huge roadblock for labs thinking about switching to BioNano. More demand, more flow cells, more revenue, right?
Exactly. If this EPT code takes off and labs adopt OGM en masse, watch out, flow cell sales could go through the roof in 2025.
Gotcha, okay. On to the next piece of the puzzle. BioNano's new Stratis system. Higher throughput than their old one, right?
Yeah, and this is especially important for those routine users we've been talking about, high-volume labs. They need a system that can keep up with all that testing, and Stratis does that. Plus, with that new CPT code potentially bringing in more labs to OGM, Stratis could be a big selling point for BioNano.
Yeah, makes sense. So adoption is still early, but the demand seems pretty strong. All right, let's talk numbers. BioNano's projecting Q4 revenue to be between $6 and $7 million, hitting 370 to 380 systems installed by the end of the year. So is that good? Bad? How does this fit into their whole profit over pure growth plan?
Well, these numbers definitely show that BioNano's focused on shrinking to grow. Yeah, revenue's down, but remember, they've been slashing costs like crazy, consolidating facilities, reducing headcount, streamlining everything.
So the revenue drop isn't the whole picture.
Right. It's not all doom and gloom. They're tightening their belts to invest in a stronger future.
And this is reflected in those cost-cutting measures.
Absolutely. Their operating cash burns way down year over year, and they're expecting operating expenses to drop even more in 2025. It's a balancing act, cutting costs, but still investing strategically in those key growth areas, like Stratis and those reimbursement initiatives.
Interesting. Now, I'm seeing some big, scary, negative numbers in this report. But should we be panicking? Because part of that is non-cash charges, meaning they're not actual cash losses, right?
Right, exactly. Think of it like depreciating an asset. The value goes down on paper, but you're not actually losing cash out of your pocket.
Right. It's accounting stuff, but still affects those overall numbers. So, big picture, it seems like BioNano's making some big bets. Shrinking to grow, that's bold. Now, got to remind everyone, this is not financial advice.
Always do your research, make your own decisions, consider your risk tolerance.
For sure. But just for fun, let's get a little speculative, shall we?
Let's do it.
This is all hypothetical, super speculative, but let's cook up a wild but plausible trade idea based on what we're seeing with BioNano. What if, and hear me out, what if that CPT code blows up and labs start switching to OGM like crazy? Demand for those high-throughput Stratis systems could go nuts in 2025.
Yeah, and if that happens...
Boom, the trade. Buy a EFPO call option on BNGO. Strike price way above the current price, expiring early 2026. Now, for anyone who's not an options whiz, a EAPP call option basically lets you bet on the stock price shooting up over a longer period.
It's a leverage bet, could mean massive returns, but also big losses.
Right. And with that strike price so high above the current price, you're banking on a huge jump. So what's the logic behind this crazy trade idea?
Well, if everything lines up perfectly, the CPT code leads to mass adoption of OGM, and Stratis becomes the system, BioNano's stock price could go to the moon.
Huge potential payoff, but also incredibly risky.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No guarantee the CPT code will have the impact everyone's expecting or that Stratis will be as successful as BioNano's hoping.
And who knows what else could happen in biotech between now and 2026, right? Bottom line, high risk, high reward, not for the faint of heart.
Which is why doing your own research is so important.
Couldn't agree more. We're just throwing out ideas here, not doling out financial advice.
Right, exploring possibilities, not making promises.
So maybe not a trade for everyone, but definitely something to think about, right? So maybe not a trade for everyone, but definitely food for thought. Okay, let's step back from the speculative trading world for a second and get back to those Q3 results. What really jumped out at you from BioNano's financials?
You know, their dedication to cutting costs is pretty impressive. They've managed to reduce non-GAAP operating expenses by about $100 million, like annualized. That's massive, and it shows they're really serious about getting to profitability.
Yeah, that's a big chunk of change. So they streamlined things, consolidated facilities, reduced headcount. Sounds like a lot of tough decisions.
It is, but, you know, it seems like it was necessary to put the company in a good position for the long haul, and you can already see it paying off. Their operating cash burn has decreased significantly year over year, and they're projecting operating expenses to drop even more in 2025.
Yeah, that's a good sign, especially when you consider they're still investing in those key growth areas like Stratis and the reimbursement stuff.
Exactly. It's a tough balance to strike, cutting costs while still investing strategically, but it's super important for any company going through a transition like this, especially in biotech.
Right, you can't just cut your way to success, you got to keep innovating. So where does all this leave BioNano going forward? Feels like they're at a turning point.
Yeah, they are. They're shrinking to grow, taking a big gamble on those routine users and the new CPT code. Bold move for sure. Next few quarters will be key to see how all these decisions shake out.
Absolutely. What should investors be keeping a close eye on?
Definitely consumable sales growth. That's the real indicator of whether this whole focus on high volume users is working. Also, Stratis adoption rates. If that system takes off, it could really boost BioNano's revenue. And of course, any news about those reimbursement efforts, especially around that new CPT code.
Right, that CPT code could be huge, but it's still too early to tell. Guess we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, before we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a thought experiment. Imagine you're running a lab, doing a lot of cytogenetic work, analyzing chromosomes, for diagnoses.
So you're using those traditional methods, karyotyping, FISH, microarrays, which can be slow and pricey.
Exactly. And you start hearing about this new tech, OGM, faster, more comprehensive, potentially more cost-effective.
But until now, there hasn't been a good way to get reimbursed for using it.
And then, boom, this new CPT code drops.
Yeah.
So the question is, knowing what you know now about BioNano's strategy, would you be more or less interested in their technology?
That's a good question. Really makes you think about the potential impact of these decisions and the possibility of OGM shaking up the cytogenetics market.
It's a bet on the future of genomics, for sure, and it'll be interesting to see if it pays off.
Definitely. And we'll be here to break it all down for you along the way.
That's it for our deep dive into BioNano Genomics Q3 2024 earnings call. We covered a lot, their financials, their strategic changes, even dipped our toes into some speculative trading ideas.
Well, hopefully you've got a clearer picture of where BioNano stands and where they're headed.
As always, do your own research, make informed investment choices.
This is just one piece of the puzzle. Always more to learn.
And we'll be here to guide you through the world of biotech investing every step of the way.
Until next time, thanks for listening to Talk Tickers.
It's pretty wild to see a company make such big changes just to reach their goals. Definitely one to watch, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. BioNano is a perfect example of how, even when the market's tough, being innovative and making smart decisions can lead to some, really interesting opportunities.
Exactly. And that's what we're all about here at Talk Tickers, right? We're always looking for those companies that are, pushing the limits, doing things differently. And BioNano definitely fits the bill.
Oh, for sure. Their dedication to optical genome mapping is really something, It'll be fascinating to see how that technology develops in the next few years.
Absolutely. Well, I think that about wraps up our deep dive into BioNano Genomics Q3 2024 earnings call. We covered a ton, their financials, the strategic shifts, even got a little speculative with some trading ideas.
Hopefully this gave you a better understanding of where BioNano is at right now and what they're planning for the future.
And, as always, gotta remind everyone, do your own research, make those investment decisions based on your own situation.
Absolutely. This is just one piece of the puzzle, remember. There's always more to learn.
And we'll be here to guide you through this crazy world of biotech investing every step of the way.
Until next time, thanks for tuning in to Talk Tickers.